Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
An event, or the result of an event, that completely destroys something. The termination of something by causing so much damage to it that it cannot be repaired or no longer exists. A final state. An event, or the result of an event, that completely destroys something. The act of demolishing. The demolition of the huge tower was quite a spectacle. An event, or the result of an event, that completely destroys something. A spill in some sport, as a fall from a bicycle or while skiing or being capsized on a surfboard. Plundering with excessive damage and destruction. An event that results in total destruction. The termination of something by causing so much damage to it that it cannot be repaired or no longer exists. The state of being decayed or destroyed. The feeling of being confounded or overwhelmed. Her departure left him in utter devastation. The time at which life ends, continuing until dead. She stayed until his death. The time when something ends. It was the death of all his plans. The event of dying or departure from life. Her death came as a terrible shock. A final state. The absence of life or state of being dead. He seemed more content in death than he had ever been in life. The act of killing. He had 2 deaths on his conscience. The permanent end of all life functions in an organism or part of an organism. The animal died a painful death. The personification of death. A piece of cloth that is left over after the rest has been used or sold. Bring to an end or halt. She ended their friendship when she found out that he had once been convicted of a crime. Be the end of. Be the last or concluding part of. This sad scene ended the movie. The state of affairs that a plan is intended to achieve and that, when achieved, terminates behavior intended to achieve it. The ends justify the means. The last section of a communication. The point in time at which something ends. The end of the year. Have an end, in a temporal, spatial, or quantitative sense, either spatial or metaphorical. My property ends by the bushes. The final stage or concluding parts of an event or occurrence. The end was exciting. A final state. He came to a bad end. Either extremity of something that has length. The end of the pier. A boundary marking the extremities of something. The end of town. A final part or section. We have given it at the end of the section since it involves the calculus. American football. A position on the line of scrimmage. No one wanted to play end. Football. The person who plays at one end of the line of scrimmage. The end managed to hold on to the pass. One of 2 places from which people are communicating to each other. The phone rang at the other end. Put an end to. The terrible news ended our hopes that he had survived. The part you were expected to play. He held up his end. The surface at either extremity of a 3-dimensional object. One end of the box was marked, this side up. Event whose occurrence ends something. His death marked the ending of an era. The end of a word, a suffix or inflectional ending or final morpheme. I don't like words that have ism as an ending. The act of ending something. The last section of a communication. The point in time at which something ends. The ending of warranty period. A decorative texture or appearance of a surface, or the substance that gives it that appearance. The boat had a metallic finish. Event whose occurrence ends something. When these final episodes are broadcast, it will be the finish of the show. Finish eating all the food on one's plate or on the table. Finally, be or do something. The temporal end, the concluding time. The market was up at the finish. A highly developed state of perfection, having a flawless or impeccable quality. Almost an inspiration which gives to all work that finish which is almost art. Have an end, in a temporal, spatial, or quantitative sense, either spatial or metaphorical. The act of finishing. His best finish in a major tournament was third. Come or bring to a finish or an end. He finished the dishes. The place designated as the end, as of a race or journey. A crowd assembled at the finish. Cause to finish a relationship with somebody. That finished me with Mary. Designated event that concludes a contest, especially a race. Excitement grew as the finish neared. Provide with a finish. The carpenter finished the table beautifully. The downfall of someone, as of persons on one side of a conflict. Booze will be the finish of him. Wine tasting. The taste of a wine on the back of the tongue, as it is swallowed. The wine has a nutty flavor and a pleasant finish. Event whose occurrence ends something. The proposition arrived at by logical reasoning, such as the proposition that must follow from the major and minor premises of a syllogism. The act of making up your mind about something. He drew his conclusions quickly. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. His conclusion took the evidence into account. The act of ending something. The last section of a communication. In conclusion, I want to say. The temporal end, the concluding time. A final settlement. The conclusion of a business deal. An intuitive assumption. Jump to a conclusion. The end of a word, a suffix or inflectional ending or final morpheme. The act of ending something. The termination of the agreement. A coming to an end of a contract period. A place where something ends or is complete. Something that results. Indicate through a symbol, formula, etc. The territory occupied by a nation. A politically organized body of people under a single government. The state has elected a new president. Chemistry. The three traditional states of matter are solids, fixed shape and volume, and liquids, fixed volume and shaped by the container, and gases, filling the container. The solid state of water is called ice. The territory occupied by one of the constituent administrative districts of a nation. His state is in the deep south. Put before. The federal department in the United States that sets and maintains foreign policies. Express in words. State your opinion. A state of depression or agitation. He was in such a state you just couldn't reason with him. The group of people comprising the government of a sovereign state. The state has lowered its income tax. The way something is with respect to its main attributes. The current state of knowledge. Deprive of virginity. An event that results in destruction. An irrecoverable state of devastation and destruction. You have brought ruin on this entire family. Failure that results in a loss of position or reputation. Destruction achieved by causing something to be wrecked or ruined. The process of becoming dilapidated. Destroy completely. Damage irreparably. You have ruined my car by pouring sugar in the tank. Reduce to bankruptcy. A ruined building. They explored several Roman ruins. Destroy or cause to fail. This behavior will ruin your chances of winning the election. Fall into ruin. Reduce to ruins. The country lay ruined after the war. Total destruction. Bomb tests resulted in the annihilation of the atoll. Destruction by annihilating something. An event that results in destruction. An irrecoverable state of devastation and destruction. Failure that results in a loss of position or reputation. Destruction achieved by causing something to be wrecked or ruined. In a decomposed state. Separation into component parts. The spontaneous disintegration of a radioactive substance along with the emission of ionizing radiation. Total destruction. A loss, or serious disruption, of organization in some system. A disintegration of personality. The complete destruction of every trace of something. Destruction by annihilating something. The complete destruction of every trace of something. Make a pillaging or destructive raid on a place, as in war times. Cause extensive destruction or ruin utterly. Usually plural, a destructive action. The ravages of time. The event of a structure being completely demolished and leveled. Complete destruction of a building. An act of plundering and pillaging and marauding. Usually plural, a destructive action. The depredations of age and disease. Growth of marine vegetation, especially of the large forms such as rockweeds and kelp. Smash or break forcefully. The destruction or collapse of something. Rack and ruin. Dried seaweed, especially that cast ashore. Destruction achieved by causing something to be wrecked or ruined. The event of a structure being completely demolished and leveled. An instrument of torture that stretches or disjoints or mutilates victims. Torment emotionally or mentally. A support for displaying various articles. The newspapers were arranged on a rack. Go at a rack. A rapid gait of a horse in which each foot strikes the ground separately. The destruction or collapse of something. Rack and ruin. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. Run before a gale. A form of torture in which pain is inflicted by stretching the body. Draw off from the lees. Rack wine. Fly in high wind. Framework for holding objects. Put on a rack and pinion. Rack a camera. Rib section of a forequarter of veal or pork or especially lamb or mutton. Seize together, as of parallel ropes of a tackle in order to prevent running through the block. Stretch to the limits. Rack one's brains. Torture on the rack. Work on a rack. Rack leather. Destruction achieved by causing something to be wrecked or ruined. Destroy property or hinder normal operations. The resistance sabotaged railroad operations during the war. A deliberate act of destruction or disruption in which equipment is damaged. The act of killing yourself. The act of destroying yourself. His insistence was pure self-destruction. The act of stripping and taking by force. Law. The intentional destruction of a document or an alteration of it that destroys its value as evidence. Complete destruction of a building. Willful, wanton and malicious destruction of the property of others. Destroying or killing a large part of the population, literally every 10th person as chosen by lot. Complete destruction of a building.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.